So my name's Russell Todd. I live in Cardiff in Wales. I'm a freelance CD practitioner, writing, facilitating, get involved in lots of different projects, a couple of which I posted on the Uber app. I was very fortunate and humbled to be invited by Alan Twelvetrees, who's a name that people might know in this kind of work, a couple of years back, to help him get over the line the sixth edition of his, I think it's fair to say, seminal text. Started off as community work. It was about that thin, and I think literally came out when I was in short trousers. So to be involved in the sixth edition, 2024, was quite weird, actually. And Raising Plug is available for 50% off all throughout July. So not today, not tomorrow, but from Thursday. So if you want to scan that, I think that's about 15, 16, 17 pounds. Let's get started. Relax. So we're going to head to Cardiff, as I said. It's a project that is these guys, ACE, Action in Cairo and Ely. There's a copy of their annual impact report on the table you're welcome to take a look at. There's the Cairo Heritage Project, which is a project that emanated out of ACE and is now kind of taken on a life of its own, like all good projects sometimes do. They just create this monster, and it's amazing, its energy and its community power and action and all these kind of things. So it's a standalone project, and Cardiff University is involved as well. And framed very often, I suppose, in part of it's kind of what we call civic mission that all universities have. But as a project, I suppose it resides within the School of History, Archaeology and Religion, to be particularly specific about it. Now on to these, don't I? So, just a little bit of scene setting in terms of the geography and the demography. As I said, we're up here somewhere, aren't we? That's where I flew from yesterday at the crack of dawn. And if you want to hone in a little bit more into Wales, down on the coast, mouths of the rivers Taff, Ely, and the Rhymney. And the River Ely, or Trelai in Welsh, is in the west of the city and gives the community that we're going to be focusing on for the next hour or so in the west. Big believer, as I'm sure we all are, in asset-based, being positive. It's not a deficit model, but I think just to set the scene, to give you an idea, Cardiff is, there's the averages for some of the key kind of indices. For the Ely and Cairo wards, they're two political wards next to one another in relation to the Cardiff average. And if you look at the Welsh and the Cardiff averages, they tend to be a bit higher on the things you don't want to be higher on and lower than the things you don't want to be lower on, to like a British kind of average or a UK average. However, it has a very, very strong sense of identity. There's a rich scene, if you like, of community solidarity and self-help, as well as talent, skills, and local knowledge. The bedrock of which is what provides ACE with its work in community development activity. So in the late 20th century, Ely and Cairo suffered a huge loss of quality local employment, not just local employment, but good quality manufacturing jobs. There was a very, very big paper mill, one of the biggest in Western Europe. There was a brewery, jam making. They were all factories with premises, practically on the doorstep for this, large population in the west of the city. And the sort of service sector jobs that have come along and replaced those, aren't anywhere near as good in terms of pay and quality and certainly security as well. And that's a story. It's not peculiar to Cardiff. It's plenty of industrial cities across certainly the UK and Western Europe, I'm sure. It's been characterised as well by some civil disturbances, some would say riots, that happened in the early 90s. I can remember them very, very significantly, driving through to school, on the school bus, going through these areas with the detritus of the night before. And it continues over 30 years later. People still talk about these instances. And they've had flare-ups since then. And it does very much, as I said, pejoratively kind of stigmatize and characterize these areas and then glosses over some of the positive things that are there. So ACE was organised, came out of a programme called Communities First, and what's really kind of weird for me here is that, I worked on the Communities First programme, which is a Welsh Government programme for tackling poverty that ran between 2002 and 2018, and I worked on it for most of that time in various roles, neighbourhood work, estates work, area coordination, and then I worked on had a programme-wide remit looking at sort of support, capacity building, training, workforce development, and I absolutely loved that. And I took a call one day from the area coordinator at the time, John, and he said, "Rob Russ," he said, "look, we've got this partnership. We have local people, members of the voluntary sector, people in the local business sector, all kind of chewing the fat, identifying what they want to tackle, projects. You know the thing." And he said, "Look, we want to set something up. We don't know what, but we want to set something up that's a bit more independent, it's a bit more locally owned, it's kind of ours, that can maybe take on assets, that can maybe employ people further down the line." So I said, "Yeah, okay, fine." That was pretty, I'd say meat and drink. It was pretty basic inquiry, but it's like anything. It's like you don't know where these things are going to lead to. So I said, "Yeah, I can pay someone. I've got that budget." So we sent in a consultant. We went through sort of stuff of being a director, being a trustee, scared a couple of people off, didn't scare the rest. And that evolved into this development trust that we now call Action in Cairo and Ely. And I would say that it is one of the best, if not the best, in Wales at what it does. So to kind of be here now talking to a global audience about this organisation, I do distinctly remember taking that phone call back in about 2010, I think it was. It's quite profound, actually. And I think it just pays tribute to that English kind of Indian, that phrase, "from little acorns do mighty oaks grow." So when these civil disturbances have happened, when there's this sort of something must be done, what tends to happen is it overlooks the fact that there's stuff being done. And it's being done every day, in the wee hours, it's on weekends, when the public sector might actually be taking off the lanyard, sitting down. Okay, fine. The Welsh idiom, I think, as well also works. Araf deg mynd ymhell also applies. It's a steady journey, but naturally there are bumps along the way. So one of the projects that they have looked at doing is this Kaya Heritage Project. And we're going to head over to Trelai Park. So just to give you a sense of geography, we're going to zoom in a little bit here. Trelai Park is over here to the right of the slide, where we've known for many, many years, decades, there's a Roman villa. Here, there is a Bronze Age hill fort, and the community has helped excavate and do some of the archaeological work up there in partnership with Cardiff University. There's the paperworks and the brewery, all of which were sort of up that bit of Cardiff. And what's remarkable is just here off screen is the A4232. So anyone who's driven into Cardiff off the M4 swings past what is one of the most internationally significant Bronze Age sites in the UK, and probably has no idea that it's there. So I'm going to hopefully. This is the stressful bit, right? So 2 weeks ago, every year, they do an annual community dig. And I'm going to hand over to Dave Wyatt in a moment. Dave, can you hear me? Please say yes.
Yeah, I can hear you. Hello, Prynawn da, Glasgow. Can you hear me?
Yeah. I can turn you up as well, so that's fine. But do you want to see them all? Because they're very beautiful, Dave.
Well, I'll yeah, bit difficult because of the light.
Yeah.
Oh, right, wow.
I wasn't lying, was I?
Lovely to see you, Glasgow. Hope it's sunny there.
Right. No idea how I get off this mind bit now. So Dave, I've set the scene. It's over to you, really.
Thanks. So welcome, Glasgow. Prynawn da, to Cardiff, the capital city of Wales. And here we are in the west of Cardiff, surrounded by the communities of Cairo and Ely that Russell's been talking to you about. My name is Dr. Dave Wyatt. I'm the co-founder of the Kaya Heritage Project, along with my colleague Ollie, who you'll speak to later, and indeed Dave Horton, who's not here today, but he's from Action in Cairo and Ely. And so the community development organisation you've been hearing about have fundamentally, shaped this project. And what you might justifiably ask, what are we doing, bringing you live to a community dig? And there's a good reason for that, because our project is really about, very in tune with the theme of this conference, because it's really about collective action and facing challenges in the community. But we do that in a very special way. We do it through a kind of collective discovery of the past, and we create new knowledge together as a community and that is quite a diverse community. And archaeological digs are wonderful because they bring people together. They create communities in themselves. And those are made up of quite often quite different people. And friendships form that last a long time in those digs. So that is why we kind of use archaeology and heritage as a vehicle to do community development work. Just to give you a little bit of an idea of what we've got planned for you now in the next sort of 45 minutes is I'm just going to give you a little bit more on Kaya heritage and how it kind of came to be and its values and how it relates to the local communities and action in Kaya and Ely. Then I'm going to invite some colleagues from that local community development organisation, Action in Kaya and Ely. We're going to sit down here. I've got a microphone here and we're going to have a little chat, and I'm just going to interview them and ask them some questions about the challenges locally and about their work as community development organisation within Ely and Kaya. And then we're going to do something quite fun. I hope this is going to work. We're going to go on a little walk around the dig, and I'm going to speak to some of the community members here and the volunteers who've been involved, some of who've been involved for a long time, some who are just joining us this year, a little bit about what discovering that heritage to pass, their heritage means to them, about a little bit about the challenges that they face as community members, and a little bit perhaps about the challenges people face around things like education and well-being, and a little bit about Kaya heritage in the context of that. So we're going to have a walk around the site here, and we'll talk to a few little people in soundbite interviews. Then once we've done that, we're going to go over the back there to where our lovely tents are. We've got a bit of shade, and we're going to have a chat with my colleague Ollie and a couple of people from the university, because Kaya heritage is very much a university community partnership, and I think that is something interesting to unpack, especially as you're sitting in the University of Glasgow. So we're going to be talking a little bit about that kind of university community partnership working, and then I'm going to call all the guys that we've spoken to up, and we're going to sit out here in the sunshine, and you're very welcome to ask us some questions. So that is the plan for our session, and I hope that sounds interesting. I'm going to sit down now, I think, Viv, on the spoil heap. So I'm here on the spoil heap. This is some of this has probably come out from the Bronze Age, almost 4,000 years old, some of this soil. Just to say a little bit more about Kaya and Ely, I think Russell's given a good overview there, but these are communities that face a lot of challenges, and those challenges have become more profound, I think, in the last 5 years, certainly since the pandemic, around things like food poverty, poor educational progression, health and well-being issues, and a lot of in-work poverty as well as unemployment. But as Russell alluded, these are amazing communities, as communities are. It's just full of assets, it's full of knowledge, talent, activism, and you can see that today in action here at the dig. Wonderful place, friendly, and people who really want to take those challenges face on collectively together. And what we've done really with Kaya Heritage is we've taken the asset-based approaches of action in Kaya and Ely, and we'll hear a little bit more about that in a second, and that kind of co-productive or co-creative approach, and we've just applied that to discovering the past and using, as I say, the discovery of the past together to tell a different story about these communities and to really help people and provide people with new life opportunities. Now, this word Kaya, you might be interested in. It's an interesting word. It's an ancient word. It's a Welsh word. And it's actually in the name of the place name here, Caira, which literally means fort, so it means fort. But in a way, that's not a very good word for it. What it really means is a defended place or a settlement that's very, that's outlined. And the reason that this place is called Caira is that half a mile up the road from where we're digging now is an enormous historic monument, Caira Hill Fort. It's a huge feat of engineering from 2,500 years ago. In the middle of a hill would have been a very large settlement of prehistoric houses surrounded by ditches and banks that would have taken many people collectively to build. What's interesting is that's the largest monument in Cardiff. It's probably the oldest monument in Cardiff, and there was nothing there. There was no interpretation, no museum, nothing. And part of the reason probably was because of the stigmas associated with the communities here. People say, I won't go there. And archaeologists hadn't come to work here. But actually, that's the reason that myself and my colleague Ollie wanted to come here, because we knew that the communities here faced challenges, but we also knew that there were incredible heritage assets, as well as these wonderful assets that the community hold for themselves. And we naturally gravitated, therefore, to our partners at Action Cairo and Ely, who were just getting started at the same time as we were, because this all happened about 15 years ago. And we had a meeting very early on in the local school. Behind us is a local school, Cardiff West. We worked with that school for a long time, and we'll be talking to a former pupil from there shortly. But back then, it was a very rundown school. It's a beautiful new school now. But we had a meeting there, and it's a very important meeting because the project values were really outlined at that by a collective of community members, us as university people, community development workers, teachers, and local young people. And what we decided we should do with that heritage is that we wanted to discover that incredible past together and involve everybody in that, for everybody to bring their collective talents to that. And then through that discovery, we wanted to open up very broadly new life opportunities. Now, that could mean anything from going on an amazing journey and getting a higher education degree and becoming an archaeologist or something like that, to getting out of the house for the first time in a while, to meeting people, making friends, being with people, being part of something bigger that's important, and making new networks and friendships that don't exist for communities like this. And that is a big part, and for all of us indeed, because of course we've learned an awful lot. In fact, our whole approach to researching the past has been changed by working with these communities and working with Action in Cairo and Ely. And the third very important thing that we wanted to do was to challenge all of those negative stories that had arisen from some of those civil disturbances that have been locally, and just generally the sort of poverty and stuff in the area, to challenge those stigmas, those negative stories that keep getting regurgitated in the media, and to tell a different story for Cairo and Ely, to tell the story we knew about all these amazing people and their talents and knowledge through that discovery of the past. And, you know, what's really interesting is that hill fort and this place here that we're now digging, in prehistory, these were the power centres. This was the original Cardiff before all of the urban stuff that's down here behind me was built, and the power centre now resides down the bay in Cardiff at the Senedd. But back in prehistory, this was the power centre. And that's an important discovery and story to tell for communities that are seen as being socially and economically marginalised, but also literally physically marginalised now because we're literally on the edges of Cardiff. So hopefully that gives you a sense of what Cairo Heritage is about. We've been going now for 15 years. A couple of other things I just want to mention before I invite the guys over for a chat. As I said before, education and open educational opportunity has been a massive part of what we do, and we involve young people of all ages, from local schools in high school through to primary school, right down to the sort of youngest groups of young people, and we're getting them working with the university to break down barriers, to break down ideas about coming into higher education. We've worked a lot with creatives. Creatives are involved, and we've got a wonderful creative here helping to film us and set this whole thing up. Viv, who's a local cameraman, filmmaker, who's made loads of films for us. We have artists, and that's always been a very important part of telling that new story, to tell that new story to the rest of the world through the involvement of creatives. And we also, over years, we started very small. We hadn't really done anything, Ollie and myself, like this, and we certainly, Dave hadn't, from ACE, hadn't worked with anyone from the university very much. We started small, but over time, especially through these community digs, we built trust, we built relationships, equal reciprocal partnerships through that co-creation, that co-production and discovery of the past. And that led to lots of spin-offs and organic things that kind of followed us until eventually we were able to get a major grant, and we actually have a beautiful community heritage centre and hub literally half a mile up the road, which is actually staffed by 2 full-time people, funded by Cardiff University, but embedded in the community. And that's the other important thing, that university community partnership involved myself and Ollie being here, being in the communities a lot, all the time, meeting and building that trust. So I'm going to now ask my colleagues, Sam and Scott from Action in Cairo and Ely, to come and join us. And I'm hoping you're going to be able to hear them And I'm going to start. I'll hand the mic to you. There's a trowel,
you.
by the way. If I don't, I'm not, I'm not threatening him. This is actually what we use to dig. Sam, just tell us a little bit about ACE as an organisation and its origins and values first, perhaps.
Yeah, sure, of course. And just wanted to start by saying how delighted I am to be talking to you guys in Glasgow. It's the first time I've done a live link to another city. So this is a really exciting opportunity to tell you guys more about what we're doing here in Cardiff. So ACE, as you mentioned, David, we were set up in 2011 as really alongside the Kaya project. So one really important thing about the development of our organization and our values is that they have really kind of been strongly influenced by this really kind of unique and special partnership that ACE as a community organization has built over time. So it kind of where ACE and Kaya they are I see them as kind of much of the same thing
Yeah,
in lots of ways. It's kind of
it's family.
a family, exactly.
We
It's
feel
it's not just a project that kind of comes and goes. It feels
Yeah.
much kind of more of a kind of a long term and really kind of quite special relationship. So but back to I suppose our origins. We grew out of a Welsh government funded program called Communities First that closed a few years back, and that was really targeting communities on the basis of them being the most deprived as measured by the Welsh Index of Multiple Deprivation. So it was very much focused on communities that were defined really by their deficits, what was kind of going wrong in these communities, what the statistics around health outcomes might be, or the unemployment, or lots of kind of statistical information, which was really defining not just where that program was working, and Ely and Cairo was one of the areas that was targeted by Communities First support, but it was also in a way what the program's delivery was really defined by those deficits, and through that program there were a number of I think quite uh, community members, volunteers, and also staff on the program who really kind of through that experience of delivering communities first, began to get, I suppose, a bit disillusioned by this kind of deficit-based approach, and really wanted to set up an organization which would both carry forward the legacy of the work of communities first, but in a way try to reframe the work around an asset-based community development approach, which you've already alluded to. So that's really about, okay, what is strong, what are the kind of what are the assets and the people, the places, what actually in this community with the right kind of support, or bringing folk together, or whatever kind of, what was the untapped assets there which maybe could actually make a difference to the community. So we were trying to reframe as an organization really that kind of old community development model, and really kind of change the way change the kind of the way that we were working in the community. So since 2011 we've done lots of different projects and lots of kind of steps along the road to go from a very small 4 or 5 staff. I think we were in the beginning now to the situation where we are a much more well-established community anchor. We have around 30 staff. We run
and that's mostly local people.
Mostly local people.
Yeah.
And also have a large team of volunteers who are doing a whole range of things, from cooking community meals to doing obviously the archaeology, but also supporting social connection groups, men's sheds, a library of things. There's a whole range of practical support and positive activity that happens not just in the 2 centres, but also in community green spaces. And that's very much, I think, we see our role as an organisation is not about delivering services and projects. It's actually about supporting there to be a positive environment, good places and spaces where these projects can be genuinely led by community and kind of grown in the direction that people want to take them. So it's very much, I suppose, a gardening role that we kind of might have. It's about looking after the community assets, bringing people together, supporting networks, making sure that local people have a voice in the way decisions are made, bringing institutions that are maybe sometimes quite distant from the community into the heart of the community. And that you mentioned about the university being here in the community, that's very much true. But I would say now this kind of model and approach also applies to the probation service. We work with the probation service very closely to run their service now as a flagship pilot of community-based probation in the Dusty Forge Community Centre, and in that, I think, really kind of reframes the way that public service is delivered by being much more not just close. So I think across all of our work, it's very much about bringing folk together, finding out what's needed, and then kind of
addressing those challenges. And I was a trustee with ACE for a number of years, and what we're seeing today at Kaya Heritage is just a tiny strand of what ACE does, and the breadth of it in terms of, as you said, the activities, all of which applies that asset-based co-creative approach. I wonder, Scott, could we bring you in at this point? And it's really interesting because you're one of those people who's gone on a kind of a bit of a journey and had a life-changing experience through your contact with ACE, but also someone, as a local person who's very aware of the challenges. So could you just perhaps elaborate on that a little bit?
Yeah, I suppose you could say that I'm a perfect case study for Kaya Heritage and ACE in general. I am a local boy, lived here for the last 17 years. Originally, I was working as a postman many years ago in the local area, and I didn't really do much, to be perfectly honest. Life was a struggle. As you mentioned, that it is in a difficult area. There is very low educational attainment. There is high levels of poverty, including general poverty and in-work poverty, all of which are factors that I did struggle with. And, people do continue to struggle with these issues within the area. And I sort of stumbled across the Kaya Heritage Project completely by accident. I've always had a keen eye for history and always enjoyed history. And in my spare time, I decided I wanted to do something to get out of the house. And I stumbled across
during the pandemic, wasn't it?
Yeah, it was. Yeah. So it was just before the pandemic. I started sort of going down to help out and volunteer at the Heritage Centre. It was literally just before the pandemic because during the pandemic, I was furloughed from Royal Mail, and I just sat in the house bored. My 5 wonderful children, keeping me very, very entertained, and I just needed something to sort of take my mind off things and to sort of get my head outside of the house, even if my body couldn't be out of it, So I whipped off an inquiry email to one of your colleagues, Dr. Paul Webster, about doing a short course, and I just something to sort of fill my evenings, doing something rather than staring at the same 4 walls and watching television every night. And it sort of spiraled from there, from sending off one email, turned into doing not only one module, but completing the entire pathway degree, which you, Dr. Wyatt, are responsible for as well. So thank you for that.
Formal.
It's all your fault I am where I am. So and that spiraled into me doing 6 modules on the pathway and then enrolling onto a degree in archaeology, of which I completed last year. And now you
got a first.
Yes, thank you. I got a first class archaeology degree. And now in my day job, I'm a community development worker for ACE. And I also am a self-employed archaeologist, taking on jobs here and there on the weekends and things. So yeah, I'm living proof that the asset-based approach that ACE and the university both take through the Kaya Heritage Project makes a difference to not only individuals, but entire communities. And this whole project really has changed my life, both personally and professionally.
That's wonderful. Thank you. I need to go on a walk and take these guys around the site in a second. But Sam, was there anything you wanted to finish on before we head off?
I need my child. Yeah, I mean, I think just the key thing is for me is how how many good things have come out of this approach of asset-based community development. And one of the things that we've been involved in as a follow-up from the disturbances, I think that both Dave and Russell have mentioned, is that we were involved in a really big community engagement exercise, which was supported by Welsh Government in a way to kind of try and work out what some of the factors and reasons for the lack of trust in the community that was there, which was contributing to the kind of background to these disturbances that happened a few years back. And so we developed the Ely and Kyra community plan, but that was on the back of conversations with over 1,200 residents. And one of the things that's been really nice about that exercise is that it hasn't just developed a plan and identified priorities of folk. It's actually, through the process of doing that, created relationships, new networks have sprung up. And quite excitingly, it has provided evidence for the local authority's application to Pride in Place programme, which is UK funding, which will provide I think it's £10 million worth of mainly capital investment.
And who's from the UK here? Pride in Place? UK government, Pride in Place? Yeah. You're a Pride in Place area? No. No, okay. That's what he's talking about. So they've kind of got this, like I said, communities first started in 2002. This kind of, the state must do something. Let's put some money into these things and put park in the politics of that. This organisation is kind of going, whoa, hang on a second. That's not how it needs to be done. Money's great, money, resources fine, don't get me wrong. But it's actually, we're already on a path, we already have an agenda. Oh no, right, I'll get in touch with them, around what people want to achieve here, yeah? And actually, stuff like this project is building pride in that community. It's not like we need to do a whole new of other things and proliferate the number of planters on the high street and hanging baskets and stuff like that. So, yeah, they've been a bit cautious engaging with it. And what's been great, very, very early days, what I've seen, other parts of Wales have kind of gone, oh, I quite like how they're standing up to some of this and being a little bit cautious rather than doing other things and proliferate the number of planters on the high street and hanging baskets and stuff like that. So, yeah, they've been a bit cautious engaging with it. And what's been great, very, very early days, what I've seen, other parts of Wales have kind of gone, oh, I quite like how they're standing up to some of this and being a little bit cautious rather than, oh, thank you ever so much, bountiful government. If you have any questions, I'll try and resurrect the call. If you have any questions, I think the best thing is to come up here. If you don't want to come up here, scribble them down, who you are, where you're rolling, what your organisation is, that kind of thing, and I'll ask them on your behalf. However, they will need to resurrect the call at their end. So sorry for this, it was going ever so well. Any comments or reflections to date? Observations, comments? Does it resonate with anything that you're aware of in your community? Because archaeology is not something that's usually part of these things, really. Go on.
I guess I did archaeology as my undergrad.
Okay.
And it's so cool to see, I guess, tradition, especially in Australia, I'm sure it's different. To say, this is really inspiring to hear. I did archaeology as my undergrad.
Yeah.
And in Australia, I guess archaeology is quite privatized. You have to do it with mining companies or transport. So it was really beautiful to see how you guys have made this a community and a collective thing, because I think archaeology is really exciting and fun. So, but it's very, what's the word?
Can be exclusive, I think,
Yeah,
is
you
what.
have to go to university to do it.
I go to a lot. There's a lot of digs you go to, and people stand behind the fence, and then someone bestows knowledge upon them. And we're not that kind of operation, are we, Jonathan? I'm going to invite Jonathan in here. Hold that a second, mate.
Hello.
So Jonathan is, this is one of our local volunteers, and he's been at the real beating heart of some of the discoveries, along with Chris over there. You going to come over, Chris? So I wondered if you guys might just say a little bit about what's it like, you know, discovering this past, you know, what's it mean for you and what do you think it means for the community?
Well, it's great for the community because
And then I will get
it's helping people get together and be involved and chat and open up about certain things and discuss and talk history, really. Trying to see some amazing objects and discoveries as well at the same time.
These guys just found an amazing Roman coin this morning, didn't you, Chris?
Yeah, lovely, absolutely beautiful Roman coin.
How did it feel to hold that in?
Small, something like that. The first time in say 3,000 years, something like that. It's absolutely phenomenal. It's a lovely hobby detecting and to help out the community. Finds what was here centuries, thousands of years ago. Absolutely stunning.
That's
really great.
Thank you guys so much.
Okay.
Yes. Yeah, you go.
Pleasure.
Is it okay if we just have a chat with a couple of other folks, if you follow me?
But accents yesterday.
Yeah.
A couple of absolute belting Cardiff accents on there.
So I'm going to invite Kath over. She's digging here today, but she's also a long-term volunteer on our Kaya Heritage Project, and she comes up. I see her every week at the Kaya Centre. Hi, Dave. Hiya. So I thought, could you tell us a little bit about what you think the project means for the community and what people get out of it, you know, as a regular volunteer at the Kaya Centre?
I mean, I've been volunteering now since 2022, so I come most weeks, and I think I always welcome. There's always a welcome. There's always biscuits and a cup of tea. So on that basis, it's great. But I think what the Heritage Centre, what the Love Hill Group does, apart from all the post-excavation stuff, which is really important. But it's a group of people who come from all sorts of different backgrounds and education levels and places, and we all just get together. We chat, we get to know one another, we support one another, not just in terms of archaeology, but in terms of life in general. No judgment, and just comes and enjoys being one another. People feel comfortable and confident and happy to be there. I think it's
And you know, I was saying earlier, it creates a community, doesn't it?
absolutely, it's so true.
Thank you, Kath. Well, let's get back to the
Thank you very
So,
much.
I'm just going to wander over one more picture on my phone. Thank you.
Everybody's going to step in one of them holes. Might break his ankle live.
No.
Hey, that's all right. So, I'm going to say hello to Sophie. So perhaps you just tell us a little bit about, Sophie, about why you were here and you know, what's meant to you being here.
Well, I Facebook page because since a very young age I wanted to be an archaeologist. And there was a dig happening, so I contacted Ollie, or well, someone, and then I got in contact with Ollie, and I ended up here for the last 2 days, basically, of the dig in ready to leave. And I know here because after that I ended up on the pathway to a degree in archaeology, and I'm back again for my first full year of the season.
And you just talked to Scott earlier, and of course he's come similarly from a different background, didn't have a chance to do uni the first time.
So I left school with absolutely no qualifications. I was told by the centre of the school, my entire class, we were told we were too thick to do GCSEs, so we were set up to fail. And it's unfortunate because 13 children that were in my class have unfortunately not amounted to much, and only a few of us ended up with jobs and whatnot. I had my son very young, so I missed out on going into further education. And now as an adult, I'm now living my dream because I randomly found a little community Facebook group and a dig, and it is incredible. You lot are amazing here, and I love being here.
Oh, thank
Yeah.
you so. And you know, although you're not actually a local girl, your partner is.
My partner is, so he used to live up on Cowbridge Road, but I have lived in and out of Cardiff for 11 odd years, and I've been dotted around. I've been in Canton, I've been in Riverside, you name it. And yeah, so I know the city quite well. However, my partner did not know anything about this town, which is really, really cool.
So we're telling a new story.
Yeah.
Thank you so much, Sophie. That's
Thank
amazing.
you.
Right. So that's a few people's perspective. I'm going to have a quick chat with one last person.
Right, get your questions ready. If you like I said, write them down or you're about to come up, they will hear you. But some conscious, the other ones that want to be starting on time as well. Oh, this young woman is incredible.
I'd like to introduce you to Tanisha Reid. So Tanisha and I have known each other for a few years now. But one thing we have managed to do is to get the university to give scholarships to local young people. And Tanisha is one of the ones who got a scholarship, and she's not interested in archaeology. She did law, and we'll just finish it. Well, you've got another bit to go, haven't you? But perhaps, Tanisha, I wonder if you could tell the guys in Glasgow a little bit about what do you think. You're from the school here that we've worked with all these years. Tell us a little bit about the challenges, perhaps, that the young people face locally in terms of educational progression.
So I think one of the main challenges a lot of the young people from this local area face is the lack of visible role models. I think a lot of the time there's these like false narratives that go around about how people from Cairo Ely are like and how they behave, and I think they really do make an impact of why young people from this local area don't seem to want to pursue higher education. And so I think that is the main barrier, because if you have no visible role model, and then on top of that you also have these negative perceptions, it can ultimately have this huge impact.
And you know, those barriers are there from the start. It's hard to, you know, it's also a big risk. I think we talked about last year financially, isn't it? In terms of, you know, especially if you're from a family that doesn't have, you know, the financial wherewithal to kind of continue. But there's also the thing around the culture and the networks, isn't there, as well? And does that carry on, do you think, when you get onto your degrees?
Yeah, I definitely think so. Like, I think initially when you're in high school, you have like a lot of people that come from a similar background to you, but then when you go to university, it feels like it's a filter, and only a few amounts of people from this from working class backgrounds to come there. And I think that these kind of challenges do persist there because it has an impact on how you interact with people in that environment and what kind of opportunities you seek out. It really does take a chip on your confidence.
And just finally, you know, how has, you know, that financial help is that made a big difference? Do you think that university should be doing more of that kind of support for young people from communities like this?
Yeah, I think for my circumstance, the financial support I got from this scholarship was very useful to me. I think the main issue I had with going to university and pursuing higher education was the financial side of everything. And I knew that I didn't have anything to fall back on. And so it was a big risk. And I think that's the same thing that goes for a lot of young people from Cairo and Ely. And so having that financial support from the scholarship helped to mitigate this kind of like financial stress that I would have been facing at university. So yeah, I definitely think that the universities and other people that work with young people should try and start implementing a lot more scholarships for young people in the local area.
That's brilliant. Thank you so much. Russell, are you there?
Yeah. Can you hear me okay?
Yeah, just about. So we've got our lovely panel here. So hello, everyone.
Hiya.
Hello. So we're ready to take your questions. So please fire away, and I'll try and use the mic to aim it at the most appropriate person.
Maybe to make a start, Dave, maybe answer the question I had a moment ago from, sorry, I forgot your name, Australia? Well, no, but it was that observation that archaeology is this often privatised and that kind of thing, and this is unprofessionalised, and this is trying to sort of dismantle that altogether and put people in the lead, Dave. Maybe speak to that.
Well, Ollie, if you want to speak to
Didn't hear that at all, Dave.
Okay, so we had a delegate from Australia saying, you know, especially in Australia, that archaeology is particularly kind of privatised and corporatised and almost exclusive. And, you know, could we just speak to that in relation to our projects and what we do, and perhaps the situation in the UK?
Yeah, of course. Well, there is an element of commercialisation of archaeology in the UK. So there's lots of commercial companies who do the majority of the work in the UK. The model in Wales is slightly different. So in Wales, we have the Trust for Welsh Archaeology, called Peneb, who sort of sit in a grey area where they're part state funded and they're part private or commercial. So they have a remit of social benefit, I guess. And we ourselves sit very much in that kind of remit of social benefit. So our project is not about making money at all. In fact, you know, that's complete anathema to us. You know, we don't charge people to come and get involved. That's not what we're about at all. Ours is about being as inclusive as possible. And putting up a paywall or anything like that, I think would put a lot of people off. So yeah, Kaya Heritage is very much that kind of project that is strictly about social benefit. And archaeology, of course, as well, because we're doing some fantastic archaeology, and local people here are finding some amazing things about the place.
Internationally significant.
Absolutely.
Before we finish, did you want to just say who you are, because I haven't introduced you?
Thanks. I'm Ollie.
This is Ollie. I mentioned Ollie earlier, so he's the co-founder of Kaya Heritage along with Dave Thornton and myself, and he's the real archaeologist. I'm just some hanger-on.
That's right. Thank you, Dave. Yes, you gave me my introduction.
Brilliant. So another question. Any other questions, Russ?
Yeah, I've got Anne Purcell's coming up from Ireland.
Hello. And
hi.
Hi. There's some really awesome stories there about pathways, you know, into university and professionally. The question I got is about other kind of ripple effects of the project. What kind of, you know, social benefits have spilled out and rippled out into the community? Is there anybody who could speak to that?
Yeah, I'm sure there is. Sam or Kath, possibly Sam, maybe?
Yeah.
Did you hear that?
I didn't hear the question, sorry.
Right, so the question was, we've heard about educational journeys and stuff like that, but what are the other benefits to the community that have rippled out sort of culturally and other issues?
I mean, I suppose a very tangible benefit is the Kaya Heritage Centre. I think we mentioned this earlier. It's a community centre, which is obviously a host for the Kaya project, but it's much more than that. It's a place that people bring their children for stay and play sessions. We run cooking sessions there as part of a Good Food Hub project. There's a community garden that's been developed and now is volunteer led, which is linking into other community green spaces. So there's
and it's like a heritage themed garden as well, so it riffs off the heritage.
Exactly, but it still absolutely is a place that people can come, build confidence, build connections, and I think that's I mean, if you use the Heritage Centre as an example, it's that might be one of the themes that the centre has led to the creation of the centre, as a kind of space for connection and for building confidence and for helping people kind of reframe their feelings of the community and feel more empowered to kind of take action and have a voice in decisions and all those kinds of things. Having that positive space is really invaluable, and that kind of, you know, we're hoping that will be a real, you know, will last many years, and the heritage will always be a theme, but it's not in terms of this kind of ripple effect, that community centre will do, you know, all kinds of benefits for the community, which go beyond people's kind of journey to university or, you know, more kind of ways.
Sorry, we're nearly out of time. And the other thing is that we've done a lot of arts and culture and events and family fun and things like that. You know, we had an open day here, and we had circus people here, and you know, so it brings that sort of stuff into the communities where often those things don't happen. So yeah,
Awesome.
I hope that answers.
No, it's brilliant.
One more question, Dave, and then we need to wrap up. Yeah.
Hi.
Yeah. Did you say there's one more or not?
Can you hear me okay?
Yeah. Sure.
Yeah.
Please go ahead.
Hi. Kira from Galway City Partnership in Ireland.
Hi, Kira.
I'm just really interested, I suppose, in maybe getting buy-in from the community. So I know we heard from that first man and he was interested in history, but if you have people in the community who would never think of engaging in this, like, was there a way of kind of selling it to the community and getting people involved in it? I'm also wondering about like kind of maybe barriers along the way, and I'm thinking about engaging people with disabilities. Is that a kind of tricky thing around physical access? Sorry, kind of two questions there.
Yeah, sure. I mean, I think getting buy-in from the wider community, I might come to you, Scott, in a sec about that. But I would say, you know, a lot of what we've done is not archaeology. I mean, you're seeing the dig today, but the breadth of what Kai Heritage does is much broader than that. So I mentioned earlier that we work with creatives a lot, and like we've done projects with young people excluded from school where we've been creating graffiti art. We just use the heritage to kind of act as a bit of a prompt for that. But the graffiti art and getting them involved in kind of doing something collectively creative that benefits the community locally together is you know another kind of way of addressing that. So the artwork and that kind of thing, and then we also have. It's interesting because different people are interested in different periods in the history as well. So like a lot of people aren't interested in archaeology at all, but they might be interested in the history of their street. And we've done projects looking at social housing as heritage and where people live, and those kinds of things as well. But we've even had like dance. We've had banner processions. We've had dance. You know, everything you can think of. We've tried, and we're welcomed. You know, because it is a sort of a really, you know, it's much bigger than the archaeology, and it is a community development project. I don't know. Does anyone want to say anything more?
Sorry, just to further that point, I think Sam touched upon it briefly earlier that the Kaya Heritage Project and ACE as a whole, we treat ourselves more like a vehicle to create social change, and we are the vehicle, and we enable the community and the wider community to chase the things that they want to do. So we do multiple things, like we take part every year in the Being Human Festival. As Dave said, we utilize asset-based community development and co-production. So we are a vehicle for people to chase the things that they want to do. I think that enables us to sort of reach as wide a demographic as we possibly can.
Say something about Library of Things.
Yeah, so in a previous incarnation at ACE, I was the Benthyg Development Officer, I think was my title. So I'm just looking at Sam because he was my line manager.
Benthyg is Welsh for borrow.
Yeah, Benthyg is the Welsh word for borrow. And basically it's a library of things. It's like going to a library, but rather than borrowing books, you are borrowing household items or gardening items. And that's what we mean by we are a vehicle for people to touch as much of people's lives as we possibly can, in the fact that we will utilize anything we can to reach as wide a demographic as we can, I think. And that's to help as many people as we can.
Yeah.
Anytime that goes well, Dave.
Wonderful.
I hate to cut across you, Scott and Dave. I think that's it at our end. People are coming in. There's other sessions to get to, so I'm really grateful. Thank you.
It's starting to rain here, so you know it's Wales. So it's a good timing. But wonderful to see you all. Little round of applause from our end here. Hey, thank you for joining us, and we hope you enjoyed the session.
Okay.
Thank you.